Welcome to New to Hill Country, Episode 2. As you may or may not know, this podcast is for people that are new to the area or longtime residents of the area who just want to get to know the area better and just want to figure out how to plug in more. I'm your host, Michael Hines. I moved to Hill Country in October of 2019. I am the head coach at SPG Texas, where I teach martial arts, yoga, and meditation for kids and adults. If you want to know more about that, you can check us out at www.sbgtexas.com. Our other sponsor is LMNT, and that is an electrolyte mix. And right now, if you look at the show notes or you look at our websites, you should be able to find a link. And if you go to that link, 50% of sales go to SPG Texas. I can't say enough good things about LMNT. I'm a long-term consumer of it. Made a huge difference in terms of my athletic performance. Really, cramping has become almost non-existent. And a lot of times I've found that just, by drinking more electrolytes, especially the way that they're formulated for LMNT, where there's not a bunch of garbage and sugar in there as well, that a lot of times just getting my electrolytes dialed in curbs a lot of cravings for food. Our show today, we're talking to Johnny Guerrero. Johnny Guerrero is a longtime police officer and owner of 1023 Photography. We talk about Johnny's life in Hill Country. He is born and raised here and has a beautiful family here and has fostered a very large number of children in the area as well, something that we get into in the show. I hope you enjoy it. So welcome to the show. Today we've got Johnny Guerrero. And Johnny Guerrero is a police officer in the New Braunfels area. And he also has a photography company. And we're going to talk with Johnny about his life here in Hill Country and all the things that he's interested in. So welcome to the show, Johnny.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Johnny, did you grow up in Hill Country?
Yeah, born and raised right here in New Braunfels. So going on 46 years now.
Oh, wow. How much has it changed for you being like from here originally?
Pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
Growing up in town, it was a place where, from the age of 5, I was probably out riding my bicycle all over town without too much worry. Since then, we've seen it blow up, obviously, into a pretty big city almost. And so there's a lot of good change, a lot of change that sometimes people wish hadn't quite happened yet, but here we are. So
sure. What are some of the best things about the New Braunfels area sort of blowing up and exploding in your mind?
Yeah, it's good to have things close by. Obviously, certain businesses have moved in. Certain companies have moved in, and so things are readily available. I can remember a time when we had to kind of load up the car and drive north to San Marcos just to go to Walmart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it was almost like a field trip for our family to load up in the van and head up to Walmart and do some shopping and then come back home. And that was kind of our day. Now, it's kind of it's just a quick run into Walmart and get out, that kind of thing. So, but it's good to have things readily available to us.
Okay. And you mentioned your family. Do you have a pretty big family here? I have met your family like in your home that you live with and stuff, and you do have a big family. You with your wife. Like, how many kids do you have? Just people at home won't know this, so.
Yeah, we have 6 kids. We for several years we fostered through Child Protective Services, and we fostered over 45 kids over a period of about 4 years.
Wow.
We had 2 of our own already, and then we ended up adopting 4 more.
Wow.
So we're a pretty busy family.
Huh. So you fostered 45 kids?
Yes.
I didn't know that, or maybe we had mentioned it and I had missed that. But wow, like, and what is like the? Let's talk about that for a little bit, if you don't
Sure.
mind. What kind of got you motivated to do that, and yeah, just tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, we had two daughters, and
Hmm.
they were getting a little bit older, and we were to the point where we couldn't have any more of our own
Hmm.
children, and we kind of wanted a boy, wanted a son,
Hmm.
and we looked into adoption. And while discussing that in our trainings that we had to do for to lead up to adoption,
Hmm.
we came to hear about fostering,
Hmm.
and so we became a licensed home and
Hmm.
opened our home up for emergency placements through CPS.
Hmm.
And from there, it kind of snowballed. We ended up getting boys, girls, infants to early teenagers.
Hmm.
We had a little bit of everybody, and eventually it came to be that we found um, our son and his sister, our daughter,
Hmm.
and we adopted them. Then we ended
Hmm.
up adopting two more girls
Okay.
aside from them. So
Okay. Huh. So how long when you foster, like, I'm again new to hill country, but in a lot of ways I'm new to a lot of things. So I'm definitely new to the fostering. I have no understanding of it really at all, except I understand they come and live in your house, but how long? I mean, how long would you typically foster one kid for? Because when you say like 45 kids, I don't, like, I'm assuming there must be like a short period and then they go, or like, yeah, just tell me more about that.
yeah, it's a case by case basis. Obviously,
Hmm.
these kids have been removed from their home because of some form of abuse or neglect. And then usually what they try to do is find another family member that would be able to take the child in.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes they're able to find somebody, but they have to make sure, that there's maybe the family members from out of town. They don't have time to come and pick the child up immediately. So they'll look for an emergency placement.
Okay.
So there were times that we had a kid in our home for maybe a day, and then
Okay.
a relative was able to come pick them up.
I see.
But then there was times where we may have had kids up to 9 months.
Huh.
Then while their parent worked their plan, they obviously have some things that they have to fulfill.
Hmm.
And then once they're done and the state says they can go back home, then they go back to their birth parents.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I'm awfully impressed that you did that. I think that's really brave to just like open your home to all those people, and especially people in such need. I think that's amazing. When you have like someone that stays for like 9 months, did you feel like you formed a strong connection with those
Oh,
children, or
oh,
yeah?
definitely. In fact, we
Uh-huh.
still we still talk about them on a
Oh.
pretty regular basis. We don't have
Hmm.
contact with them, but
Hmm.
we share the stories of them still. Because
Okay.
kids do some crazy things sometimes,
Sure.
and so in even with our kids now, we'll share some of the stories of other kids, and we laugh about it, or we get a little sad sometimes about some of them, but
Sure.
uh, they were definitely they'll always be a part of us, definitely.
Wow. Wow. That's huge, though. Yeah. I mean, wow. Huh. So, and then do you have quite a lot of family members in the area? Like, are there a lot of other Guerreros that I have yet to meet, like brothers and sisters and stuff like that? Or
My parents and then some cousins, my
okay.
brother and sister. Well, my sister is back in New Braunfels, I should say.
Okay.
My brother lives out in College Station,
Mm-hmm.
where Texas A&M is, if you've heard of that school.
Mm-hmm.
My sister um, is back in town, but she's lived all over the country. And she's having to land back here.
Okay.
Um, and then I have cousins. My dad's side of the family had 11 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
My my
Wow.
mom's side of the family, there was five of them. So
Huh.
we definitely have come from big families.
Huh. So it kind of that's interesting. I think that it's kind of similar in my family. You and I are not too far apart in age and stuff. Like yeah, my grandmother would start like talking about her siblings, and like I could almost not keep track of it. There were so
Hmm.
many of them, like, and I
Right.
actually didn't meet a lot of my grandmother on my father's side. I never met a ton of her family. There was a bit of a scandal in the family that where I'm from, Dubuque, Iowa, is mostly German, and but there's like German Protestant and German Catholic. And if I recall correctly, she was German Catholic and she married a German Protestant and he came over, maybe something like that. In any case, both sides of the family kind of like ostracized them. They were like out,
Right.
like, which is kind of hard to imagine these days, but
Right.
they were sort of on their own. And then my impression is that like things, the wounds kind of healed over time and stuff, but I didn't really have a tremendous amount of association with like her brothers and sisters. I would kind of see them at like a family reunion, but it was such huge numbers, like, and it's just interesting to see that switch, where America really changed over to suddenly it's just like three kids,
Right.
like, and
Right.
then you guys are on the other end of that spectrum where you're raising quite a large family. So that's pretty different. I don't know, feel some jealousy there. I don't know. Wouldn't mind having some more kids. Like, but it's not really my call to make. Yeah, but yeah. Huh. Well, that's interesting. So, you know, you stayed here. You grew up here. What was kind of like your as you grew into being an adult? What were some of the first things you did in this area, and how different was it at that time? Like,
Well, as I was kind of finishing up high school, I was, floating we have the river, the Guadalupe River, so
mhm.
rafting, tubing, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Occasional visit to Green Hall, which is the oldest dance hall in Texas, which I
Hmm.
currently live about 5 minutes from.
Nice.
Um, it's those kind of things. I started in karate
Hmm.
as a junior in high school and did that for a couple of years. And then I right after high school, I left for the Army,
Okay.
and so I was in the Army for 5 years.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Huh.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and so I got to travel a little bit, doing that,
Hmm.
and eventually landed back here with my new family,
Okay.
and from there I pretty much jumped right into a law enforcement career,
Hmm.
and that's been 20 years now. So
Oh, wow.
uh,
So, did you meet your wife Gina while you were in the military?
yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. Well, how did you guys meet?
We were at a bar, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
here in New Braunfels.
Hmm.
I was down from Fort Hood visiting a friend of mine, and
Yeah.
she was in the area with a friend of hers, and we just happened to meet, at
Okay.
the same place, and we hit it off from there.
Okay. Was it kind of just like, was it a love at first sight kind of thing? Was it just like a pretty instantaneous, like, or did you have to fight or something to like get
No,
her or
no,
anything?
we actually became really close friends
Huh.
first, and then we kind of developed a relationship after that. And I think that worked out good for both of us, because you know, we were young, and
Hmm.
the fact that we had a friendship first and got along well and came to understand each other beforehand, I think that really, helped pay off. And
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
we've been together for a while now, so
Sure. Mutual respect goes a long ways in a relationship, and having that established early, I think, is great. Just yeah. Huh. Interesting. And then Gina is not from this area, right? Gina is
uh,
from Mississippi. Is that correct?
correct, correct,
Okay.
yes.
Mhm. What is she? How does she feel about? How was it kind of moving her to the New Braunfels area, and what kind of in general hill country? Like, how did she respond to it initially, and just kind of how did that feel, basically?
Yeah, she had moved here, a couple of years prior to San Antonio, actually.
Okay.
And so she was familiar with the area,
Hmm.
not overly familiar with New Braunfels because she just happened to be here occasionally.
Hmm.
But she came to like New Braunfels pretty quickly. She you know, got accustomed to everything. It's a little bit slower than San Antonio, which I like.
Hmm.
And we've made our home here. We've been here ever since.
Okay, cool. Um, and then you got into law enforcement. You've been in law enforcement for 25 years. That's right.
20 years, yes, sir.
20 years. Oh, okay. What made you gravitate towards that?
I think it's a pretty natural transition to go from military to some form of first responder.
Hmm.
Maybe depending on your field in the military, maybe it transitions over to law enforcement, fire, EMS, something of that uh, within those fields. And for me, it was just very natural to go from one uniform to another, and to maybe
I see.
to carry, maybe I carry a different kind of gun, but it's still in that same gamut. Um, but you have a paramilitary structure. You're expected to carry that same discipline that I picked up in the military. It's a lot of similarities. Definitely the purpose and the goals are different, but a lot of the structure is the same.
Okay. And how is it serving the Hill Country, like as a police officer? What would you like to say about that? I mean, I've I've never been a police officer of any sort, and I would imagine though that every region has its own characteristics. What is it like working in this area?
It's been really good. It's been really
Mm,
good. The Originally when I started, I mean, we might have one deputy our county is broken up into four districts, and we might have one deputy in each district, and your nearest backup might be 15, 20 minutes away.
mm,
And now it's grown so much that we have deputies everywhere.
okay.
And but I've really picked up a lot of good experience in dealing with people. Sometimes at their worst times, sometimes at their
Mm,
best times. Sometimes it gets a little hairy out there, but
sure.
uh, we've come to do our job in a pretty good manner, to where everybody takes care of each other, and we all make it through it.
Mm,
But it's been a really good job for us, as a family. It's provided for us like probably no other field that I would be able to fit into at the time, or
mm,
even
mm,
now. Uh, you know, I'm not one to really complain too much about compensation, because I feel that our family's been blessed by this career, and
mm,
while it may have its inherent hardships, it's a service oriented occupation. It's a duty based profession, and you're going to have to make sacrifices to work in those kinds of fields. And so
sure.
I don't complain too much.
Sure. Sure. Would you describe Hill Country as a low crime region, or would you say it's I don't know. My impression is that it's very low crime, but
I think it varies
mhm.
from area to area. There are
Okay,
some areas where it can be very high crime. I mean, it could
okay,
be uh, you know anything from uh, robberies to shootings,
mm,
gang activity,
mm,
drug dealing, that kind of thing. It's out there. It's in our community.
mm,
But then there's other areas you turn around and they're quite peaceful. All
mhm,
the neighbors know each other. They look out for
mm,
each other, and you don't have any kind of call volume into their neighborhoods just because things are good.
sure,
Uh,
sure,
and as an agency, the agency I work for, we try to provide equal service to both types of communities, because they both need us in there, whether they're we may do uh, the types of patrolling techniques that are done in one neighborhood may vary from the other, but
I see. It
we're
makes
still
sense.
wanting to provide that same visibility and same service to them, regardless of their walk of life.
Sure. Yeah. I feel particularly safe where I live because I feel like almost every street I turn down where I live in New Braunfels, there's like a cop car parked there.
Yeah.
Like I live in a neighborhood with like, boy, I don't even know. Like it just feels like if I just take my kids over to school, it's like I drive by like 4 or 5 parked cop cars like
Yeah.
almost every day. So
Yeah. You probably have
yeah,
several agencies,
Mm,
living in your single neighborhood. I mean,
right,
it's a desired area to live in. So yeah,
sure.
definitely.
So yeah, I always kind of feel like, yeah, I don't know. If I were, I often, I'm a dreamer and I have a great imagination. So I tend to imagine weird things like, like if I was going to break into a house or something, and I just think like I put myself in that role. And I'm like, if I saw that cruiser right there, I don't think I'd choose this block. I just think I'd choose another block where I didn't see that.
Right.
Like that just I would go for the lowest probability, but then I maybe I don't know, you could tell me more about criminology, but I would imagine sometimes the that rational sometimes rational choice theory is not the best descriptor of crimes committed, right? So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the big arguments for letting officers take their cars home.
Mm,
Uh, you
makes
know,
sense.
there are some agencies where they have a car. It's referred to as hot seating the car, where
Mm,
the day shift guy drives it around for 8 or 9 hours, and when he's done, he drops it off, and then the afternoon guy comes in and he jumps in the same car.
mm,
They have to switch out gear, all that kind of stuff. Where
mm.
most of the agencies in this area, you're assigned to that car, and that is your car.
Okay.
And so you drive it and you take it home with you, and it sits in front of your house until your next shift.
It's
And
natural
so,
deterrence,
yes,
right? Like, yeah.
absolutely,
Huh,
absolutely.
interesting. And then uh you're into photography. Tell me
I
about
am.
that. What got you into photography initially, and tell me where you're going with that.
I've always been the guy that's carrying around the camera,
Mm,
whether it be um, when I was overseas with my family around here. Regardless, I've always had a camera. And one year for Christmas, my wife bought me my first DSLR
okay.
camera, and I had no idea how to use it. I mean, all I could see was numbers and switches and knobs, and had no clue of what this camera was actually capable of.
Mhm,
So I had the camera for about a year, and this was my daughter Chelsea's freshman year in high school. And she came home one day and said, "Hey guys, I want to try wrestling."
mhm,
And we knew absolutely nothing about folk style wrestling, which is what they do in the high schools here in Texas.
mhm,
And we said, "Okay, if you want to try it, try it." And the next thing you know, she's in her first competition a couple of weeks later. And
mhm,
so I said, "Well, I got to figure out this camera thing now because I've got a purpose. I have a purpose, a reason
mhm,
to learn how to use this thing." And from there, it kind of took off. I learned what all those knobs and switches did, and I learned a whole new vocabulary that comes with a new skill.
mhm.
I learned about gear and actually ended up upgrading a few times. And over time, I came to take some really good wrestling photos. And it wasn't long before people started asking me, "Hey, do you do, senior portraits, or do you do newborn photography?" And pretty much I was like, I'll do whatever. I'll do it all. And so
Nice.
I kind of practiced a little bit of everything, from landscape to street photography to portraiture, and then eventually I got called in to do some weddings, and that's what I've been working on mostly, is portrait work and weddings, and it's been good. That's been almost 7 years now.
And then you have a little company, right?
Yes,
What's
I
the name of
do.
that?
We are 1023 Photo Company.
Okay.
And 1023 is actually back when law enforcement used to use 10 codes. We kind of done away with that after 9/11.
Mhm.
1023 meant you were on location. Like you got dispatched to a call,
Ah,
like you got
I see.
sent to a call, and when you pulled up and you let your dispatcher know, hey, I'm 1023, and everybody knows you're on location. So
Hmm,
kind of photography on location is our thing. I don't have a studio,
I see.
so I pretty much anywhere where I go is where the client is, and so that's kind of why I use that name for that.
Hmm. Can I take it back just a second? You said they stopped using the 10 calls after 9/11. Why is that? Tell me more.
We went to what's referred to as plain text.
Okay.
Reason being is, say we're currently in Comal County, right? And
Uh-huh.
we have our list of 10 codes.
Uh-huh.
And if for some reason we need to communicate with another agency, let's just say El Paso,
Uh-huh.
they may have a completely different list of 10 codes than we do.
I see. Okay.
Uh, and even further into some bigger cities that didn't even use 10 codes, they might use, like California would use a
I
completely
see.
different set of codes than we would
I
use.
see.
And
Okay.
so the federal government said, after 9/11,
Mm,
said we need to unify the way our first responders communicate.
that makes sense.
And so we went to what's referred to as plain text, which is basically just using regular English
Mm,
to describe what you're doing.
okay. That makes sense. So you just like I'm on site at blank or something like that. Is that
Right.
a rough understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. That's pretty interesting. Huh. How if I wanted to take advantage of your services as a photographer, where would I need to go?
Oh, my website is www.10, which is the number 10
Hmm.
dash 23
Hmm.
photocompany.com.
Okay.
And
And
there's email link on there. There's also links to my social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram,
okay.
uh, and all the most of my prices are on there. Some things are case by case basis, but
Hmm.
I kind of let everybody know who I am ahead of time.
Okay. Where are you hoping to see your photography company going in the future? Like, what's kind of the goal? What are your goals and what's your direction for it?
Well, here lately we've been talking about moving into kind of a new for us, a new subject matter, and that would be that of boudoir photography.
Okay.
For anybody
Tell
that
me more
doesn't,
about what that is. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
sure,
So
sure.
yeah.
A lot of
Hmm.
people hear that and maybe they might think they know what it is, but boudoir photography is more of an intimate setting,
Hmm.
usually for female clients. And it's you tend to see more. It's a little more revealing, a little more intimate.
Hmm.
It might be in lingerie or something of that aspect. And again, I have 5 daughters. I have a
Hmm.
beautiful wife and 5 daughters, and we raise them to be strong women.
Hmm.
We if you get to know uh, my teenage and older daughters, they're very headstrong. They're very independent, and they believe in themselves.
I'm
And
gonna I'm gonna pause you for a second. I have met Johnny's daughters, and that is true what he's saying. I just want to confirm that that's not like delusional like father talk or something. Like they're totally like headstrong, confident people. Like yeah, forces to be reckoned with. Yeah.
well, thank you. But we as a family believe in the strength of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
The way that she carries herself, the way that she as a man, as a husband, as a dad, I believe women are to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
Which may sound a little, contrary when we're discussing boudoir photography, because some people think it's, subjecting women to, certain stereotypes, if you will. But,
Mm-hmm.
uh, a lot of clients find themselves where maybe they doubt themselves. Maybe they're, 25, 30, 50, 60 years old, and they've, uh, maybe they've been overweight for
Mm-hmm.
decades, and they lose some of that weight, and they start to feel better about themselves, and they want
Mm-hmm.
to show that they feel better about themselves.
Sure.
Or maybe they've had some kind of surgery that's caused, some kind of deformation within their body or on their, scars, and uh, but they know that despite that, they're still beautiful and they're still strong. Uh,
That's awesome.
and so to me, those would be the clients that I'd be looking for. Someone who has maybe, for whatever reason, doubted themselves or feel down on themselves, and they've come to realize, no, I'm better than that, and they want to show that. And so that kind of, goes into the idea of what we talk about as far as raising strong women.
Mm,
And my wife is one of the strongest women I know.
definitely.
And so I kind of want to promote that through my photography.
Awesome. Your wife is one of the strongest women I know. So like, Gina is a powerhouse of a
She
person.
is.
So yeah.
She definitely is.
I would never want to be on the wrong side of her, and I can imagine that when there's conflicts between you, I wouldn't want to switch places with you. But yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we're in some downtime right now as far as the photography business goes,
Sure.
because of all the closures and whatnot. But I've been doing some training, doing some studying, picked up some new gear. We're coming up with some marketing plans as far as, so when we're able to get back to work, we're probably going to launch a whole new section to the photography business.
That's so cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I'm just under 2 years from being eligible to retire, so
Oh
uh,
wow.
yeah. So
Hmm.
it's pretty exciting around here. We have a little calendar that we watch; it counts down for us. But we want to make sure we have this up and running before that time comes, so we're comfortable to say it's time to hang it up and start a new journey altogether.
Sure. I mean, it's great to be able to do that. To have that option of. I'm not trying to knock anyone that works like the same job for 40 years or something, or 50 years, but I do feel that if life provides you with the opportunity to switch careers at a certain point in a positive sense,
Hmm.
it's great to sort of live two lives, basically. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
because a job becomes a life in its own way. It really consumes a lot of your time and your energy, and it's cool to be able to do one thing and then be able to switch to something else entirely. I mean, it's the point that I'm at in my life, which is I went from professor to now I run a gym. So it's
Yeah.
a big change. It's a huge change, but it's also kind of incredibly reinvigorating. And I think it'll be really neat for you to like retire from the force, and then you can be like, and now I just shift completely into photography and put all my energy and passion into that. That'll be really cool. So. Um, is there any other things that you'd like to talk about? Things going on for you in Hill Country? Like,
Um, we, man, we this year has been a very, I'll call it an awakening for our family. We've had many discussions, but for anybody listening, we
mm,
have transitioned to a paleo diet. It's been 15 weeks now,
mm,
and we haven't deviated from it. It's been actually very easy on us.
mm.
We are feeling better than we ever have. We've both lost, a good amount of weight, and
Mm.
that's still happening.
How
Uh,
much weight have you lost? Do you know? Like
I've
rough
lost,
estimate?
I've lost about 25 pounds. I think Gina may be
Woo!
at 20 pounds.
Nice.
Gina's had several health issues in the past, and those have kind of cleared up or at least calmed down.
Mm.
Specifically, her digestive issues she's had in the past, um,
That's
and
awesome.
and migraines. Those are pretty much disappeared.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Me, I'm feeling more energetic. I'm feeling like I can fill my day up with activity, and I don't feel like I have to take any breaks. Um, got back in the jiu-jitsu gym, obviously.
Mm. Sure.
It's been really good for me. But on top of that, we're doing some yoga, some meditation.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing some other steps like using the blue light blocker glasses to kind of get our rhythms back in place and making
Cool.
sure we're getting good sleep, which is we're probably getting better sleep than we've had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying a whole a an overall health approach to everything.
That's great.
I refer to it as physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually. We are trying to do pretty much anything we hear of, we'll give it a shot, and if it's not for us, we say, okay, that's not for us.
That's cool.
But for the most part, everything we're doing is like, wow, our life is getting better.
Awesome.
We're feeling better, we're acting better, we're able to treat people better.
Mm-hmm.
We've switched to, like, for the most part, grass-fed meats instead of some of the grain finished meats you might have. We would have had it before. We're looking into organic, veggies and fruits as opposed
Sure.
to just your usual traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's paid off a lot for us. And
Sure.
our kids are kind of seeing it. Our older kids are seeing it. Abby, our teenager, is eating the way we're eating, and she's feeling it.
Mm.
The little kids were put up a little bit of resistance because they love Hot Pockets and pizza rolls.
I understand. Yeah.
And we let them have their stuff, occasionally. We're not
Sure.
really strict on them because
Sure.
we don't want them to be miserable, but at the same time, we're trying to minimize some of the the effects of things like gluten or
Sure.
sugar, excess sugars. But overall, as a family, I think it's made a big impact on us.
That's awesome.
And we're trying to, we're not coaches, we're not nutritionists, we're not doctors of any sort, but we are also making this stuff known to our friends, our coworkers, saying, hey, you may want to read this book. You may want to check this out. Check out this website and see what you think. And, because, people are noticing, it's definitely not
it's noticeable. There's almost like no way to say it without, like, it sounds mean or something, but like I met you back in November or so, I think.
right.
And you were overweight,
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
and it would definitely, it stood out, like, and I had not told you this, I think, but I had this moment when I met you, and you were actually taking pictures of the wrestling match, and you were just like super absorbed in that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just, and I was thinking, like, and this is kind of just the way this thought came was because when I launched the gym, initially I had talked to Rob Wolf, who's a big proponent of the paleo movement and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I had originally talked to Rob. I was just like, how can we partner up in like a very general sense? Like, I just was like, very generally, I want to, sell some of your products or something like that. And then I
Right.
got the whole Rob Wolf, so I got the whole Rob Wolf in the deal of that conversation. So I don't know, maybe my negotiation skills are better than I think, but just, I remember sitting there actually with you at the high school, and I was like, I'm going to help these people, like, so much. Like, they're going to find out about stuff. It's going to be great, like, because that's why I got into all of this, was just
Mm-hmm.
like, I just want to make other people feel great, basically. So it's like, I was like, I hope these guys can, like, find these dietary changes, because it's changed my life. It's going to change their life. Like, I just wanted that to be in the back burner, and then you picked it up before we even, like, got the gym going. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was like, awesome.
Yeah, I heard you guys were coming.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard of Rob before,
Mm-hmm.
and through mutual friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I told Gina, I said, I think I want to pick up this guy's book. I want to know a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about him before he gets
Mm-hmm.
here. And she bought me a copy of Wired to Eat,
Mm-hmm.
which she actually took back from me and read it before I even had a chance to start it.
Nice.
And she said, we're doing this. And
Nice.
I said, okay, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up getting rid of a bunch of stuff in our pantry.
Mm-hmm.
And, we haven't looked back.
That's so awesome.
And so, yeah, I mean, I will absolutely admit that, you have helped me tremendously. Number one, I have a love for jujitsu that
Hmm.
has, wavered because of, schedules and injuries, and life just
Sure.
basically getting in the way.
Sure.
Uh, and when I heard that Straight Blast, an organization that I've been familiar with for 10 years,
Mm.
was coming to my hometown, I said, well, I need to be ready for this, because I don't want to go out there and just, you know, be, way overweight and not be able to do the things that I'm trying to learn. Even though
Sure.
jujitsu is really something that pretty much anybody can do, regardless
Right.
of fitness level. I want to perform better than that.
Sure.
And then with the stuff that we've come to learn from the Wolves, and their
Mm.
podcast, and their,
Mm.
Rob's books, and it was neat to actually meet him. I was
Mm.
trying to contain myself and not be too, like, you know, I didn't want to be the fanboy and run up and
Sure.
say,
Sure.
hey Rob, and
Mm.
but he's a good guy to bounce things off of, and
Sure.
we
Yes.
talk occasionally on through social media, but pretty much if he recommends anything, we do it. If he
Yeah.
recommends any products, we try it. I'm currently drinking my Element Recharge right now.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, a little plug there.
Sure.
But we, I mean, it's become a way of life, and it's not even, in the past we've tried this because I've struggled with weight all the time, but
Mm.
in the past I've, we've scheduled cheat days, cheat
Mm.
meals,
Mm.
and it's not even a thing of, we don't even consider it.
Right.
We're eating quality, really gourmet quality food.
Mm.
And I'm cooking better than I've ever cooked, and
Right.
we're eating better than we've ever eaten, and I have no complaints.
It's you don't want the cheat day. That's how I feel. Like every now and then, I kind of someone's like, yeah, let's have this sort of like let's go crazy on a pizza or something, and it's just it doesn't taste that good
No,
because,
yeah,
like you said, the way that I eat normally is so good that it's like, and it's so satiating. You're eating really full flavored foods, not foods that are like imitations of
right,
flavors. Like people eat like a blueberry flavored something something, and it's like just go eat blueberries. Like it's like if the flavor is what you want, you
yeah.
won't beat the blueberry itself.
It's
Like
really that easy. It is.
right. And when you look at those imitations, the imitations, what a blueberry flavored whatever it is, scone, whatever, what you mean is something that resembles the flavor of blueberry and probably a ton of sugar.
Right,
Like it's
exactly.
usually what that actually means. So you just kind of want a way to trick your brain into consuming more sugar than it would normally consume. Like so yeah, and it's interesting. I didn't get the impression that you were yeah, I don't think you embarrassed yourself with Rob or anything like that, just to let you know. And yeah, just the more once we can be open again and stuff and everything's and you'll get a chance to see him a whole lot more, I'm sure. Uh, yeah, he's very approachable. Like
Oh yeah,
I ask
definitely.
I just I ask him all the time stuff and like I try not to bug him with like text messages or something like but I ask him all the time and actually the other day he and I went shopping together and we were just like grocery shopping together because we are even though it's like the COVID shutdown right now. I don't know when this will be released. It may be some weeks after all the shutdowns over or something.
Hmm.
But he and I as essentially co-workers, we're still training together and we still meet
Right.
fairly frequently and we were like grocery shopping and it was actually really cool to go grocery shopping with Rob and just kind of like because I tend to follow his advice on most things and stuff and I could just ask him like as we were walking through the freezer section I'm like, oh hey, what do you think about this thing? And he's like, it's kind of it's okay. It's like he was actually really he's not how to put this, like I was a vegetarian for a long time
Hmm.
and vegetarians, when you have restrictions, they're not necessarily due to religious reasons, but they are observed with a certain religious zeal.
Right.
And
Right.
that's very different. Like, so Rob would be like I asked him about some cauliflower pizzas, and he's like, yeah, I mean, they're all right. It's not really like if you just kind of wanted to get the taste of pizza in the most general sense and just tick the box, yeah, he's like, are they fabulous for you? No. Like, should you eat
No.
those every day? No. But like, if you just really felt like you missed pizza or something, you just wanted to tick that box, you could tick it with this, and it wouldn't really make any significant like curb in your diet and your blood sugar levels and stuff like that. So he's like, yeah, it's cool, like, and he's like, yeah, I would eat something like that every now and then. And I mean, that was kind of my first impression of Rob, because we met in Costa Rica and we were hanging out, just eating stuff and hanging out. And, he was like, I'm on vacation. I'm eating like I'm on vacation. But even within that, we weren't going like super duper crazy or something, but like, he wasn't like counting carbs or something, and he wasn't like, we just would show up and be like, oh, what do you want to eat? Oh, this sounds nice. And we were training 4 hours a day anyways, so it wasn't like we weren't really in some sort of like we weren't like really going to excess in anything, but we were having drinks and stuff like that too. So I really appreciated how kind of loose and relaxed he was about everything, like, so yeah, I think that's why we hit it off. If anything, I'm probably a little more strict than Rob is. I have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
I have a personality that trends towards that. So, like, I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of guy.
Yeah, because
So.
I've read those cauliflower pizza boxes, and I've read a few of them, and I get to certain things in the ingredients list. I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
not gonna do it.
It's good perspective.
Yeah. So I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of person.
Me too.
I either have to really do it or not do it at all.
Sure.
Because if I let things slide just a little bit, then I tend to slide all the way.
Yep.
And so I just gotta have to stay on top of it.
I'm very similar with that. Yeah. So I totally understand. Yeah. And most of the time, anytime I deviate, it's like I wouldn't say like regret it in some like huge guilt ridden way, but I'm usually just kind of like, that really wasn't worth my time. It wasn't it's like you get a memory confused with reality. And It's like you have a memory of something that it was great, and then you try it and you're like, that's not really what I remember that being. That's very different.
We had the exact same conversation maybe 2 days ago. It's like,
okay,
we could probably go eat a Whataburger and
Mhm.
think, well, it was okay, but it wasn't going to be as great as I thought it was going to be,
Right.
And that's just kind of the way we look at it ahead of time.
And this is, and we're kind of getting off track, but it's all good. Just something that kind of does come up if you listen to a lot of different speakers and stuff is greater understanding of the gut and like the microbiome and stuff like that. That if you stopped feeding the bacteria in your gut that was essentially being fed from like highly processed foods, you really you are literally losing the taste for it. Like that bacteria is driving your desire for a lot of things. And that was kind of a weird, and I don't know that this is the most scientific way to think of it, but I started thinking of it this way, as like that a lot of my urges and impulses and my sense of taste, I started abstracting that from my sense of identity, like, and just realizing that like basically whatever bacteria exists in my gut is what my taste is going to be, and if you, and I think that's why like 30-day reset type stuff is so powerful, because you go long enough to start to get a change in your microbiome and your gut, and then you just don't feel the drive for those things anymore, because the bacteria is not there sending signals up through your nervous system and making you like want to go eat some like Cheetos or something like that. Because that signal, and I could be wrong, but that signal is probably like bacteria in your gut that's like dying because it was Cheeto fed to begin with. It's like, Cheeto, give me Cheeto or I'll die.
Oh yeah, I love Cheetos. If I could probably blow through an entire bag of Cheetos in one sitting. I haven't touched them in months, but if I were to have, like, I'm just going to have a small bowl of Cheetos, I'd probably eat that whole bag of Cheetos. So
I'm the same way. Yeah, I can't go like the small portions or whatever. There's a small percentage of people for whom I think that works. And if it works for you, that's great. My wife's a little more in that category. She tends not to just go just nuts on things, like with some exceptions perhaps, but yeah, I'm not that dude. I'll eat the I don't eat a slice of the pizza. I eat the whole thing. Like that's just
Yeah.
my personality. So now it's more like I don't eat a bite of steak. I eat the whole steak. So like,
Right.
which is doing me a lot, which is helping me a lot more. So,
Definitely.
but hey, man, it's been a great conversation. I feel like we could keep rolling, but I'm trying to keep things short and sweet. So we'll call her here, and it's been great having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future.
Sure.
So yeah, take care, Johnny, and we'll be in touch. So yeah.
All right. We'll see you out on the mat soon.